All right, let's get moving. We are on Lamed. No, something on the base. To Memav from Rav. Yeah, Memav from Rav. Harmel no. Allah Ches. I don't know. Karam Shaton and Eli. A prohibition on you deriving any benefit from me. He may, if he dies, Yerushalmi. His son can still inherit him. In other words, it's only a ban during his lifetime, not after death. If you say you can't derive benefit from me both in my life and after my death, he may slay Yerushalmi. If he dies, he cannot inherit him. He should give his brothers, or his, or he should give. They have to give the property either to the sons of the son, who are not mudarana, or to the brothers. Remain low. If he doesn't have anything to eat, the child who was forsworn benefit, low, he borrows money, and when he gets his Yerusha Balichol, when the Yerusha goes to the Yerusha goes down as an inheritance, although he himself cannot derive benefit from it, but that benefit that can be derived, that the Yerusha can be used to defray his creditors. He's not allowed to derive any benefit from the Yerusha, because father banned him from deriving benefit even after his death. But he can't derive benefit. But if he's destitute, he can borrow money against the Yerusha, and then the creditors come and pay off themselves from the Yerusha. We had them done a variation on that theme. If you're mudarana from somebody, and somebody goes and supports that somebody, you can pay off the person who supported them.
We had something a few nights ago.
Do we have it? It's in Ksubas too, but I don't remember having a few nights ago. But it's entirely possible. My memory tends to blur. Okay. Rabbi Yerushalmi said, Chami hechnina. Just starting the Gemara. Chami hechnina. By the way, I called the Aguda today in New York and got the ball. Also started the ball very slowly rolling over there. I'm making a scene. So, listen.
What is interested in it?
Officially, this is an Aguda Yisrael project. Yeah. Officially, we're just as much an Aguda Yisrael project as the Bavli.
We can rent out Shakespeare.
We needed to think of an appropriate venue. I was trying to think of an appropriate venue, but I really couldn't think of it.
Most appropriate. Have you been to the Yankee Stadium since it was remodeled?
Yankee Stadium. Yeah. Go to the South Bronx, talk and get a place for very cheap, I'm sure down there. All right. Okay. All right. Rabbi Yerushalmi said, look at what it says here. Which is basically a rereading of our Mishnah. It says, if you say this on Karim Shat Naneli, you may not derive benefit from me. If he dies, Yerushalmi. He could still inherit him. If he says during my lifetime and after my death, he may slay Hashem. If he dies, he does not inherit him. But Tani, what about the father? Well, it's actually not a kasha. Well, it is a kasha, but in any event, we'll see the price. But time we learned another price. If he says b'chayai, you derive your forsworn for benefit during my lifetime. He makes your Hashem. If he dies, you still derive benefit from him. B'moisi. If he says, if I die forsworn, imesi roshenu. Even if when he dies, his son may derive benefit from him. Even though it's explicitly b'moisi. Only if it says, b'chayai u'v'moisi, if he says both, then he may slay roshenu. Only then does it preclude the son from meriting. Ma ben ahen demar chada chada. What's the difference between the father who said either one, chaye or moisi? That moisi doesn't work. Lahain damar tarti tarti, than the one who says two, both statements, chaye u moisi. What's the difference? What's the chiluk? It's a good question. So Rav Yirmi of Rabbi Yitzchak and Tarvei and Rami, they both said, I'll tell you. Koinam l'bayis zeh sheni nichnas. There are two ways to ask this way. Now, there's a long Gilin Shots here, and he basically explains the lomdus of the answer, which is worthwhile staying before we see the answer itself. The lomdus of the answer is, you can't do something after your death unless it began during your lifetime. In other words, I can't forswear my son from Hanoah after my death unless it began during my lifetime. So that's why to say b'moisi by itself doesn't work. It's got to be b'chayai u'v'moisi, because that's why its continuity begins during my life and continues after my death. Once the din is chal, it can continue on subsequently. Okay? Now, says, with that in mind, we'll see the Gemara's answer. The person says, Baizeh. Oh, Baizeh means the din is on the house. So if it's on the house, even if the house is sold to somebody else, doesn't matter. The house is still usher on him, because he said Baizeh. Focus on this house, not this person's house, but this house, right? Similarly, b'chayav v'moisei, there's obviously a typo. Now, although I see if they corrected, it's got to be b'chayav v'moisei. If he said during the lifetime and after the death of the individuals living in the house, the same idea, right? It transfers over during his lifetime and after his death. Even though he's no longer there, it's no longer his house, it's still also, right? Just once he said goodbye, he said also a ben b'chayim ben lachar misa, and also b'chayav u'moso, also after during lifetime and after death. That's his idea. In other words, it has to start now and continue over afterwards. Rabbi Yosef said, Tiyam ben Yizaki, yes, that's true. That's an interesting brayso which you just quoted from the Dorim, but you should know that there's a greater chiddush here in the Zakim. Tiyam ben Yizakim ad lo tiyam ben Dorim. Here we have bigger chiddush, because here it says, Koinam Hanoyas Nechosai Elu Olav. In the Dorim, it's talking about where I asked something upon myself, both during the lifetime and after lifetime of the individual who owns it. That makes sense. I can make upon myself an Isser, which continues beyond the death of the individual against whom the Isser is directed. As long as they say Ba'izeh. The chiddush here is that I can answer my stuff on somebody else even after my own death. That's a much bigger, as long as I started during my lifetime. That's a much bigger chiddush. Okay, that's to say, the chiddush is came from our elu once he says elu or b'chayev v'moisi. That's a much bigger chiddush. That's what it says. Now, a lot of the Achronim changed the gears. Says here, there's no need, I don't think. See, I think that works out very nicely. Okay, they changed the gears because Gemara in the Dorim is a different. There's a comparable Gemara in the Dorim, Perikei Halacha Gimel, and they changed it to squeeze in with that Gemara over there. Not necessary. Halacha des. Hagoizel Sagir. You steal from a ger. Okay? Now, halacha is, of course, that you have to return it to the ger as long as he's alive. But if he dies, he has no heirs. So what do you do? If nishbalo, if you made an oath to him, umeis, and then he died, I raise him keren v'chomish v'kohanim v'oshim nizbeach. You got to give the principal and an additional fifth to the kohanim, and you have to bring an oshim to nizbeach. Shneimar says, v'imeinla you should go if the person has no redeemer, meaning somebody to accept the money, lo shiva oshim to return the damage to him, they bring to the kohen, etc. So he's taking out the money and his korban to Yerushalayim, and umeis, and the thief dropped dead on the way. Serves him right. So the money goes to his children. And the Osham goes out to graze until it gets a mum, and it's sold to Nadava, and its money goes to Nadava. Thus says Kesalanchi Mishra, we gave the money to members of the Mishmar. There was a guy who was still alive. He gave the money to the members of the Mishpah when he came up. And then he dropped dead. The Yoshim cannot extricate the money from the Kohanim who are holding on to it. Shema says, and the Kohen lo yeh, once you give it to the Kohen, it belongs to the Kohen. Chilva Rabbi Yisrael Chanina Omar. Chilva Rabbi Yisrael Chanina both said, Rabbi Yossi Agliliu. Now, again, a lot of that Kohanim make a lot of changes today, and I don't see any necessity to make the changes they make. Chilva Rabbi Yossi Agliliu Omar, Rabbi Yossi Agliliu. Our mission is Rabbi Yossi Agliliu. The Doish Rabbi Yossi Agliliu, Rabbi Yossi Agliliu Darshan. Pamea Kosom Darba, what's our pasuk speaking about? because the pasuk is actually going to be brought on the base. What pasuk we're referring to as being brought on base? Because it's a ger benishpa lo mace. You steal from a ger and you take an oath him and he dies. Shem mishayin keren v'choymet, you pay a keren and a fifth l'kohanim v'ashim mizbech and an ashim to the mizbech. V'mainly ishgoel. That's actually the pasuk. It says mainly ishgoel. The guy, the relatives, lashiva, hashama, mushame, love, whatever it says there, it goes to the kohen. Okay. Now the end of the pasuk is critical for the next statement. The next pasuk, the end of the pasuk says, "Asher yechaper bo." You give it the person who's mechaper for it brings the money and the yashim, etc. The aton kapara chayav. So from this we deduce if the Gazan died and only his kids are alive, then it's no longer brought, right? Because it's even the keren. It's not a repayment because the Kohen's not the guy you stole from. It's a kapara gelt. It's kapara gelt. Only the person who committed the sin has to bring it. His children after him do not have to bring it. Okay? If he drops down and way to Yerushalmi. That's what Rabbi Yosef said. Dorish Rabbi Akiva Darshuk Shebam Zufrin. When he came from the city of Zufrin. Same, it starts on the same drasha, but it's going to deviate in a minute. What's supposed to be about? Because somebody steals from a ger v'nishpa lo, and he takes an oath him who makes and he dies. Shemishalim keren v'choymish the kohanim. You pay the keren v'choymish to the kohanim. V'asham l'nizbech and l'asham l'nizbech. So for Shneimar it says v'im leish goel v'goel v'goel. Exact same drasha so far. Ein l'cha adam b'yisrael she'ein l'cha goel. There's nobody in Ami, so it doesn't have a goel. Rather elazagir. Let's go for it. Let's basically say Joshua as Rabbi Yosef. So what does Rabbi Akiva argue? But Rabbi Akiva argues. Rabbi Akiva also says, Rabbi Akiva argues and Rabbi Yosef Glili. Because first, the Gemara began and said, our Mishnah is like Rabbi Yosef Glili. Chufan Rabbi Yosef Glili said, our Mishnah is like Rabbi Yosef Glili. Who argues Rabbi Yosef Glili? That same Rabbi Akiva seems to agree with him, argues with him. Rabbi Akiva says, to shav ashma, let the guilt be returned. That's the language of the pasuk. Hasham hamushav. It's passive tense. It doesn't say to shav. But it says Hasham hamushav la Hashem la kohen. Mushav means it's got to be. It's a din l'chefta, not din l'kafra. Once the money has been set aside, it's got to get over to the kohanim. It's got to be given to the Kohen. It doesn't matter who gives it, the father or the son. So Akiva argues says, even if the father dropped dead on your way to Yerushalayim, as long as he separated the money, the kids bring the money to the Kohen, to the Beis HaMikdash. Okay? Again, Machlokas Rabbi Yosef and Rabbi Akiva, our Mishnah holds that if he drops dead, the kids get to keep the money. Rabbi Akiva holds if he drops dead, the money goes to the Kohanim nonetheless. That's what Rabbi Akiva says. Rabbi basically argues. And our Mishnah, Rabbi Yosef Glili.
It's like if you make something hektish, it's already designated.
Right. Right. But we see by an Osha, they even designated if the Miskaper dies, you don't bring it. You're actually stoiv. And here that would mean with the money, you keep the money. But here Rabbi Akiva says, no, you give the money. Right? Okay, Allah chiyur. Now you give the money to Yoyariv. Now Yoyariv and Yedayah, the two Mishmaros mentioned this Mishnah. But we know that the Kohanim were divided into how many Mishmaros? 24. One each week. Yoyariv is the first, Yedayah is the second. Okay? So he brought the money, he gave it to Yoyariv. V'ashim, and he gave the Ashim to Yedayah. Yotza. Now, what the Mishnah doesn't specify, and what the Gemara is actually not going to specify either, but will become obvious what the Gemara holds about the Mishnah, is whose week was it? Whose week was it?
Sounds like it was the first ones.
Sounds like it's first ones. That's what you say. What do you say?
It can't be the first ones, because if Yedayah is mentioned, it hasn't passed the first one. Right?
Could be. You're both right. Anyway, it's going to be the issue. But the thing is, the Pashpran mission is that you brought this money 1 week and the Asham the next week. That's the Pashup Shah the Mishnah. And you'd say, it's okay. You don't have to get the Kesef and Asham to the same Mishmar. However, Asham Liyoyori the Kesef Vidai, if you reversed it and first brought the Asham and then the Kesef, that's no good. Because you can't sacrifice the korban until you bring the money. It's hypocrisy. You have to do tshuva. Give the money to the kohen before you bring the korban. So Im Kayam Asham, if the Asham's still alive, Yaakov Bnei Yedaya, give it to the Yedayaites to sacrifice. Bilav, if it's too late, your Yori people already brought it. Yachzor v'yavi Asham Acher. He's got to bring another Asham. Shamevi Gzela Chalid Loevi Asham Yotza. To bring the thefty for him in the Asham, that's okay. Asham Loevi Gzelo, the Asham before it brings the Gezel, Lo Yotza is not Yotze. Nasan as a Keren, V'lo Nasan as a Chemeshar. Let's say all you got around to give is a principal. You haven't given the extra fifth, and they sacrifice your korban in the interim. Ain't a Chemesh Maki. This is good for Chemesh is not essential. Okay, Rabbi said. Now the next Gemara. Oh boy, it took me hours this morning. Really, Lamish couldn't figure it out, and everybody changes their souls backward and forth. Everybody says the Yerushalmi is wrong. The Fei Naim is the Lashon. Everybody changes gears anyway. So let me propose this change. And there are all different changes which are made. But the Siyata Dishmaya, in my way I'm going to learn it, only 2 changes are necessary, and one of them is made by the Scorio manuscript. So I only made 1 change on my own, the very end. But it took me a long time to figure out. I don't know if what I'm saying is any better than the ones which don't change the pshat, the Girsa, but I'm going to just go mostly with the Girsa more, except for one place. Okay, Rabbi Chizkiya Amar. Chizkiya says, now, before we read this actually, not changing Girsa, but putting in additional fact, there's a Brisa, which the Gemara is obviously discussing, and it doesn't quote. The Bavli quotes it here. But the Yerushalmi doesn't, and the Pnei Moshe says it's an omission. It's obvious that they're talking about the Brisa. So the Brisa I'm going to read you is from the Bavli Daf Kufi Rav. The Bavli says, Tan Rabban, Nasan Asham Yoriv. He gave the korban to Mishmar number 1, to Yoriv. And Kesef Yedaya, and gave the money to Yedaya, Mishmar number 2. Yachzor Kesef Eitzel Asham, Div Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda holds, you give the money to hold it, whoever's holding on to the korban. Chomim Yachzor Asham Eitzel Kesef. Chachamim say you give the Asham to the guy who's got the money. Okay, so if we want to remember, it's a quick way of remembering that is the Chachamim hold the Spindel principle, right? That the money is Iker. So the Asham goes to the money. Rabbi Yehuda holds, and he's the Das Yochid, of course, that the korban is more important, and you bring the kesef to where the korban is. Okay? So, with that in mind, what's their machlokas? Rabbi Chizkiya Amar, b'shtei Shabbosos plihin. They're arguing about where you brought it in 2 separate weeks. Rabbi Yossi Amar, b'Shabbos Hachas, they're arguing about when you brought it in the same week. Remember I asked this question in the Mishnah not too long ago. Okay, the Gemara, this explicit issue of the Brisa. Now we're discussing each opinion separately. That means, even though you did the exact opposite of what you were supposed to do, you gave the money to your Yoriv b'mishmar Yedaya, when it's Yedaya's mishmar, v'asham Yedaya b'mishmar Yoriv, and he gave the asham to Yedaya in your Yoriv's mishmar. In other words, you gave the money, which in week number 1, to Mishmar number 2. And you gave the korban in week number 2 to Mishmar number 1. Right? I'm sorry, the other way around. You gave the money to Mishmar number 1, but in week number 2. And you gave the Asham in week number 2, but to Mishmar number 1. Okay, so you did both wrong. Right? You gave it to the wrong. You crossed over. You should have given the money in week number 1. Instead, you gave it week number 2 to the right mishmar. But you gave it in the wrong week. And well, the asham, you should have given it in week number 2, but you gave it week number 1 to the right mishmar, but in the wrong week. Okay. So in this case, you're yotzei. Because what does the Brisa say? The Brisa says, okay, now they should get together. Either you give the money to the guy who has the mishmar which has the korban, or you give the korban to the guy who has the money. But you're yoytze. Now they got to make it work. But you're in the senior, you're yoytze. Okay? Even though you switched up, messed up. That's what this Mishnah said. Everybody agrees on the price. Rabbi says, Im Kedive Rabbi Yehuda, if Rabbi Yehuda is correct, Rabbi Yehuda is the one who holds, you give the money to whoever's holding on to the korban. Im hi krivu b'nei yoriv es ha'asham. If the b'nei yoriv sacrificed the asham, lo niskaper lohen, then there is no kapara. The Bnei Yoriv sacrifice the Osham, there's no kapara because you gave the money, one second, to the wrong person. Now this is talking about, again, according to Rabbi Yehud.
It's the right person in the wrong week.
What?
Your Yoriv should have been the first week.
Right.
So they're sacrificing it in the second week when they're no longer working there. It's not their week anymore.
Right, they'll sacrifice it the first week. And that's why it doesn't work.
Well, they are sacrificing it the first week. Before they got the money.
Before they got the money. No, yeah, for Elo, rather. Right, you have to bring the money, which is by Yoyor, which is by Yedaya, to Yoyori before they sacrifice the Osham. Then B'Yakir B'nei Yori V'Esa Osham. Then B'nei Yoyori can bring the Osham, he's couple them, and that'll be fine. Now, Rebbe makes this point according to Rebbe Yehuda. So it's not true according to Chachamim. To Chachamim, if the Bnei Yoriv don't give the Osham to Yedaya and they sacrifice it, since the... Let me see if I can say this without confusing you. What about, now let's take it the other way. According to Chachamim, you're supposed to give the Osham to the people who got the money, right? According to Rabbi Yehuda, if you didn't give the money to the people who have the Osham, and they're this week, they're the first week, and they sacrifice the Osham without having gotten the money, you're not Yotze, right? So therefore they must get the money, and then they sacrifice the Osham. Okay? That's according to Rabbi Yehuda holds, the money goes to the guy who has got the korban. Let's look at the other way. According to Chachamim. According to Chachamim, if the Bnei Yoriv who got the Osham did not give it to Bnei Yedaya who have the money, which they were supposed to do, it's okay. Anyway, why is that? Because Bnei Yedaya already got the money. They got it during that week. That's what he's saying. In other words, in the case which the Bryce says, you gave your Yoda, you gave the Osham to your Yoriv, and the money to Yedaya. Hey, you switch weeks. That's right. You switch weeks. Did I make that clear before? Oh, didn't I make it clear? Now I forget if I made that clear. They did switch weeks. Shtei Shabbosos means they switched weeks. In other words, you gave it in the wrong week. Okay?
You said before you gave it to the right person, but
if I did that, I said I was wrong. Let me check that out. That's the Kesef area. Well, let's look back again in the Gemara. Man Amar Shtei Shabbosos Nasas HaKesef Lo Yoriv B'Mishmar Yedaya. You gave the money the wrong week. You gave the money in the second week. V'Hashem Yedaya B'Mishmar Yoriv. Right?
yes, so that you gave to the right Mishmar. But
right, in the wrong week. The right Mishmar the wrong week. Right. Right, the right Mishmar the wrong week. Right. So now, according to Rabbanan, you gave Yedaya the Osher, you gave Yedaya the money first. Oh, I see. It doesn't work out that way. He gave you Yorim. He gave you Daya. Oh, I have it wrong in my notes here. Let's see if it works out. If I switch my notes, if the B'nai Yedaya don't give the Yasham to B'nai Yoriv, well, who got one here? Chesed you gave to Yoriv, and the Hashem you gave to Yedaya. So Yedaya, so let me just change the words here. We should write on a piece of paper. That's what I have a piece of paper to write on. Yeah. Okay. You gave the money to your Yoriv. Yoriv in the Mishmar of Yedaya in week 2. Gave the Asham to Yedaya, his Mishmar 1, in week 2. And he gave Yedaya, Mishmar 2, the Asham in the Mishmar of Yoriv, in the week of Mishmar number 1. So you have to actually read the table this way, okay? So you gave the Osham to Yedaya, was Mishnah number 2, in the week of Yoriv. And you gave the money to Yoriv, was Mishnah number 1, but in the week of Yedaya. So you did things backwards. So even though the Yerushalmi has it backwards, this is a Kesef Yoriv b'Mishmar Yedaya, Osham Yedaya b'Mishmar Yoriv, says Yoytze. And they just switch, they give it to each other. So then Rabbi Omer, Inkadiva Rabbi Yehuda, like Rabbi Yehuda, who says, according to Rabbi Yehuda, the way it's got to flow is that the money has got to go. This is Rabbi Yehuda holds that the money's got to go this way, right? This is Rabbi Yehuda. So according to Rabbi Yehuda, Imikrivu b'nei Yoriv, if the b'nei Yoriv over here sacrifice Imikrivu b'nei Yoriv as a Osham, they didn't get the Osham then. Because of Mishmar Yoriv, Mishmar Yedaya. No, so they didn't. Imikrivu b'nei Yoriv as a Osham lo niskaper lahem. Yeah, but they didn't get the money. He came to Yoriv as a Osham. The Yoriv, they sacrificed the Osham. Oh, okay, right. If it goes in the other direction, if B'nai Yedaya give the Osham to B'nai Yoriv, right? If they relinquish the carbon to him, lo niskaper lahem. It doesn't work. Because the money was not given properly. Okay, that's fine. In other words, according to you, that the money's got to go to the guy who's got the Osham. Let's say they did it the other way around. The Osham went to the guy who got the money. No good. You know why? Because this giving of the money was commandale sadami. the giving of the money, since it took place in week 2, doesn't count. Even the money was not valid. So therefore, if they gave the Osham to Bnei Yoriv, who got the money, and then Bnei Yoriv do the Osham, it's no good. Because the money they got, since it preceded the Osham, it's like a Mechusar Zman. The Osham, actually I like that smart, I didn't even think of that this morning. The Osham is Mechusar Zman. If they give the Osham to Bnei Yoriv to sacrifice, that's no good. Because this Osham which was given Mechusar Zman, it was given before the money. So therefore the only way it can work is if the money goes to Bnei Yedaya, and then they sacrifice the korban. Is that true? Why is that? So the money goes to Bnei Yedaya. The money was given in week 2. Yeah, because it's their week. Okay, so it's their week. The Osham. I thought I had it down pat. Oh, joke was on me. Again, this is the order. First, the Osham was given to Yedaya, and in the week of Yoriv, and then the money was given to Yoriv in the week of Yedaya. So Rabbi Yehuda says you got to give the money to Bnei Yedaya for them to sacrifice in their own week, right? And that's okay because it's not Mechusar Zman, because then it's as if nothing happened the first week. Everything's happening the second week. The Bnei Yedaya in the second week get the money, and then they sacrifice the korban. But what happens if you did the other way around? According to Rabbi Yehuda, if you gave the Osham to Bnei Yoriv to sacrifice, because they got the money, it doesn't work. That's no good. Because in the scene of the money, the first week was Shalokadin. Because the scene of the money, the scene of the money was still no good. The scene of
what week are they going to? Let's say
they have to sacrifice it.
It has to be in the second week.
It has to be in the second week, yes.
Which means your diet has to do it. Regardless.
That's what Rabbi Yehuda is saying.
So
Your diet is to regardless.
Since your diet has the Osham to begin with, the money will have to be brought to them so they could do it in the second week.
Right. The money has to be brought to them so they can do the second week. You got it.
It's a time factor as well.
Right.
Because it has to be in the second week.
So it has to be the second week. The money has to go to Bnei Yedaya who are going to the Osham. They have the korban. They can only do this. They can only do the second week. Right. So the money has to go to them.
Right.
Okay, good. So let's see if that works. If did the other way, you gave the Osham to Bnei Yoriv. It's in week number 2 already because they only got their korban in week number 2.
Week.
It's not their week. Lo niskaper loya. Did you hear that? El where the money's got to go from Yoriv. Money's got to go from
Yoriv to Yedaya because Yedaya has the Osham and they're going to be there.
So that is a typo. El yeah, it should be Livnei Yedaya. Yeah, it's wrong. See, it says either Ibnei Yoriv El Bnei Yedaya or Mi Libnei Yedaya Mi Bnei Yoriv, as you just explained. Right, it's a typo. I used to use pencil much more, so I learned the hard way. It's not a good idea. Because after years, you can't read anymore when you... Okay, now let's figure out Chachami. Even though they're not B'Yakibnei Yoriv, it's Osham, Vizkapulem. And B'nai, no, so it should be B'nai Yedaya should sacrifice. Yakiva B'nai Yedaya. Okay. Now, according to Chachomim, if the B'nai Yedaya don't give the Asham to your Yoriv, right? They hold that the money's got to go to the Asham's got to go. Rabbanan hold that it's got to go this way. The Asham's got to go where the money is, right? So according to Chachomim, if the B'nai Yedaya don't give the Asham to B'nai Yoriv, and they themselves sacrifice it, that's okay. That's okay, right? Because it's all week 2 already. It's all week 2, right? So it's nishker ferlach, because everything is taking place, because B'nai Yoriv only got the money in week number 2. So therefore that's okay. So Rabbi Yehuda holds it must be that the money goes to the guy who does the ashram and not vice versa, right? But Rabbanan holds. Am I right about that?
Yeah.
The money has to go to Rabbi Yehuda, but the money must go to the guy who did the ashram and not vice versa. But Rabbanan, who hold that the ashram goes to the guy who does the money, hold that if it doesn't happen that way, it's also good. Because they hold, it does certainly make sense, yeah. Because Rabbi Yehuda holds this way dafka, that the money must go to the guy who got the ashram, because it's the week of Yedaya, and therefore Yedaya must do the ashram, and therefore the Yedaya must do the ashram, and therefore the money has to go to Yedaya as well. But Rabbanan, who hold anyway, the ashram is going to go to your Yoriv. And despite the fact that it's week 2, your Yoriv must get the money, right? And your Yoriv is going to have to do an extra special korban in order to do, because it's not his week, in order for this to work. I mean, yeah, your Yoriv has to do an extra special korban. Certainly they'll hold the other way to work as well, because that's much less problems, because then Yedaya is going to be doing in his week. In other words, if they hold that, we make an exception to the rule. So if you don't do it the right way, but you have it and there's no exception to the rule, it's even better.
So they do hold to the exception? In other words,
yeah,
it's not their week?
Because the usher must go to the guy who got the money. They hold that that's paramount. That's got to happen. The usher's got to go to the guy who got the money. Okay. And so meres. So let's see now.
Wait, so they're allowing your yard to knock the korban and they're offering.
Even though,
but that's because they got the money. But the reverse would not work.
the reverse would zicha work.
Why? Because they don't have the money.
No, if you gave the money to the guy who got the ashram, if your yard voluntarily relinquished your money to Yedaya, that definitely work. So that's what I'm saying. It definitely work the other way. Okay? If it works to make an extra special korban, because we prefer to give the ashram to the guy who has the money, it certainly works the other way as well. Okay, so some merits, the top of Mem Beis Amav. So some merits, Anshe Mishmar Shazochu B'Mishmar Shalo B'Shabboson, the Anshe Mishmar, who is Zoicha to a Mishmar Shalo B'Shabboson, Motziin Oson Miyodon. In other words, both for Rabbanan and Rabbi Yehuda, no, now I have down both Rabbanan and Rabbi Yehuda. I'm not so sure if that's true anymore. Anshe Mishmar Shazochu B'Mishmar Shalo B'Shabboson Motziin Oson Miyodon. No, this is only according to Rabbi Yehuda, because Rabbi Yehuda is the one who says that the money goes to Yedaya.
Right, well, so they cannot do it. Right, according to Rabbanan, of course they can do it. Your yard can do it, make a
right.
An exception. Therefore, it's their off week. It won't be Mosino Yada, which means we don't permit them to do it.
Right, so it's only got Rabbi Yehuda to riot. Right. You understand why I only claim Rabbi Yehuda? Because Rabbi Yehuda is the one who says the money must go to the Osher, to Yedaya. Only Yedaya can sacrifice, because it's week number 2. So he's the one who holds. Even though your Yariv's We take away from Yoriv the money and we give it to.
It seems to be a time factor. It's not the anti-spindle.
No, I disagree. No, because really we're out to be moitzi here because both Rabbanan and Rabbi Yehuda hold its paramount. They have a paramount value which they put over the Mishmar b'Shabboso. Means we're always going to be motzi based on the principle of kesef to osham, osham to kesef.
Yeah, but Rabbanan allow shalom b'Shabboson. They permit Yehoyariv to be matir korban.
Right.
So it's not Motzinos from Yada.
Yeah, you're right. It's only according to Rabbi Yehuda. He's right. Because Rabbanan permit an extra special korban. Just a second. So Rabbanan were matir Yoriv to be makriv not in their week. But we're not matir according to Rabbi Yehuda. And the Vezos Omeres goes according to Rabbi Yehuda. Okay. Now, Ma'anamar Shabbos Achas plead. The Ma'anamar argue about one Shabbos. So it's all in the same week. It's not 2 weeks. Nosan Sakesef Lo Yoriv B'Mishmar Yedaya. You gave the money to your Yoriv in Yedaya's Mishmar. So everything is in the same week. The second week. You should have given the money to Yoriv last week. That would have been okay. But you waited till this week, to Yedaya's week, to give it to Yoriv. So, right? So I'm sorry. I should have said it about that. You gave it in the wrong week, right? But this is the thing. I stopped in the middle of a sentence and I explained the sentence wrong. Ma'ana Shabbos House pleaded, Nazal Kesel Yoriv Mishrei Dai and Oshim Yedai B'Mishmar Yoriv Lo Yotza. According to him, if you did it over the course of 2 weeks, you're not Yotza at all. In other words, he holds at least one of the Nesinas has to be Kedin. You can't mix and match, right? In this case, in the case before, we're mixing and matching because we gave the Yoshim to Yedaya in a week which wasn't his, and we gave the money to Yoriv in a week which was not his, right? Focus Rabbanan and Rabbi Yehuda is only in 1 week, and if you gave him 1 week, how do you work it? Who gets what? Do you give it to the Mishmar? Do you give it to the guy who got the money? You give it to the guy who got the korban? But if you gave it in the course of 2 weeks and you messed up, then none of the Nesinas are Kedin. And it sounds like very strongly from here, and the Or Yosher here discusses whether, to what extent it's the Raisa, the Rabbanan, but it sounds like for him also it's the Raisa. It's very strongly that Moshe Rabbeinu started the Mishmaros, and they're the Raisa, and if you mess up the Mishmaros by doing it totally wrong, not even one Nesina is valid, then you have to start from scratch. In other words, what? According to Mandamar says Shabbos Achas. He holds if you gave it a course of 2 weeks, and both Nesinas were wrong, the whole ritual is chucked out the window.
Shabbos Achas, it's still Machlokas even in Rabbanan.
But there it's kosher. The question is just what you do. See, Machlokas even Rabbanan is it's kosher. You did it in Nesina. The question is who gets what now? How Yoriv and Yedaya divvy it up? Who's supposed to get it? But your Nesina was a kosher Nesina. But Koinaman was Shabbos Achas Machlokas. That means it's only true that they argue but say it's kosher, and just how do you divvy it up? By when you gave it in the same week, right? And that means by definition at least one of your Nesinas was one to the right Mishmar. But if you gave it over the course of 2 weeks, and you muffed it up completely, none of your Nesinas were to the right Mishmar, in that case you're not Yotze at all. Okay, so that's what he's saying. So Smeres Anshi Mishish is again, if you switch completely, Lo Yotza. Zos Smeres, and this teaches us The Zos Meretz is going on the Mishnah, period. Now, after that is a period. It's in the Gemara. Now, Zos Meretz is going on the Mishnah. On the Mishnah it says that you don't take from Yedaya, the korban if it's over the course of 2 weeks, right? And then it's course 2 weeks, so you got it right at least. It was in right order. You gave the kesef to your Yorv in week 1, and the Yosham to Yedaya in week 2. There wasn't discussion in the Brisa. The Brisa was discussion where something got mixed up. Here you didn't get mixed up, you just didn't give it to the same Mishmar. So our Mishnah teaches us, Anshe Mishmar shezochu b'korban b'Shabboson, and the Anshe Mishmar who are zoich in their korban in their proper Shabbos, ein motziin osam miyadam. We don't take it away from them. In other words, Midina, Lichara, we should give, at least according to Rabbanan, we should give the Asham away from Yedaya to your Yorif, right? Because your Yorif got the money. And we said before, in a case of a mix-up, then you got to give the Asham to the people who got the money. But here we see that where there was no mix-up, then even though it splits things up, your money stays by your Yoriv, and the Asham stays by Yedaya, right? We don't make him give it up.
Well, depends which week.
No, it was in the right week. Right week. No, the question is, so why tak is that true? Why do Rabban and Rabbi Yehuda, in the case of a mix-up, say you have to settle things out by giving the Asham either to the person who has the Kesef, or giving the Kesef person as the Asham? Yet in our Mishnah, they're willing to let your Yorib keep the Kesef, and let Yedaya keep the Asham. The answer is obvious. The Gemara gives the obvious answer. So Sameres, even though it's not the preferable way, the preferable way is that one Mishnah should get both, right? And when they gave it in a messed up way, then we make them switch, right? We make not switch, but we make either the Kesef go to the Asham, or the Asham go to the Kesef, depending on Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbanan. But when they gave it properly, in the proper Mishmar, even though it's not proper to split up the Kesef in the Asham, we let it stick. That's what our Mishnah teaches us. Okay? Says the Gemara further, Ivim Iber. Now this is a quote from the Brisa, and we're going to discuss it. Ivim Iber Mishmar B'nei Yorif. If the time passed, Mishmar B'nei Yorif. What does it mean? Kini Mastis is a way to read the Brisa. Vima Yoshe Iber Achar Yomim. The Bnei Yedaya received the Asham, like our Mishnah. In other words, Bnei Yoriv, they got the money. Bnei Yedaya got the Asham, but they didn't sacrifice it right away. Bnei Yedaya missed their week. Okay, right? Im Iber means Avar Zmano. The time of the Asham passed. So that then we give the Asham to Bnei Yorif. Now, I guess it means in the third week, right? It's not the Mishra Yorif, it's not the Mishra Yedaya anymore, right? But one of the two of them's got to sacrifice it. We don't give it to Mishmar, I don't know, Ruvain, whoever's the third week. It's either Yorif or Yedaya. So which one gets it? So the Yedaya got it. They should keep it. No, this teaches us to give it away, right? In this case, you take it away from the Mishmar which have it, and let's skip now for a minute to the very end of the parak. Zosmeres anshe Mishmar shezochu b'korban Shabboson v'nisatzu v'loikrivu motzinosam miyadam. Because they were atzlonim, because Yedaya was lazy and they weren't makriv and they were supposed to, they lose it. They lost their rights to it. Okay, so now going back to Lonis Kappa law, right? Lonis Kappa law means like this. This line means it wasn't given to them to begin with. In other words, how can we take the Asham away from Yedai and give it to your Yorib? It wasn't given to that Mishmar. It's a funny language, Lonis Kappa law, but it wasn't given to them. Eloyolich es ha'asham Now, yeah, it should be ha'asham, I believe. This is one change which I made earlier today on my own initiative. That you take the asham, be bnei yadai. In other words, the question was, it's not bnei yorivs. So how can they sacrifice it? No, we take it away from bnei yadai. It's a bnei yoriv. The akirivu bnei. This here, the Scorio manuscript has to change. It's obvious. So Samer Sanche Mishmash is Zocher B'Korb Shabbaza. Nisatzvulei Kivu Motzino Sumiyodam. So that's what tells. In other words, more thought. I wasn't given to Bnei Yedaya. That's the whole chiddush. The chiddush is that we take it out of Bnei Yedaya and give it to Bnei Yoriv. Okay, so that was difficult, but it could have been a lot worse. Anyway, because thank you for helping me figure it out. So the bottom line is that according to the Mandamer holds Shtei Shabbosos, as long as you got one Nesina Shtei Shabbosos, it doesn't matter if you got the whole thing wrong. We'll sort it out for you. And the question is how you sort it out and what kind of sorting out works. And that was the whole issue, whether according to Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbanan, according to Mandamer Shabbos Achas, if you got the whole thing wrong, you botched it up completely, then the whole Nesina is bought. We're not going to sort it out for you. You have to get at least something right. And if the Bnei Yedaya got the korban and they missed their opportunity, then we give it to Bnei Yoriv to do. I'm wondering if that last statement in the parak is only according to Rabbanan. No, but I think it's true because they're posher here. Even he would agree. Because they're not slanim, so we take it away from them. Okay, new parak. Hagoyzu machel is bonov. Somebody who steals and gives his kids the food to eat. And leaves in front of them the stuff which he stole, they're exempt from paying. If it's something which is real estate, right? They must pay. Ain't portim one never makes change. Not from the box of the tax collectors, nor from the pocket of the what? Most of them are customs collectors. Loikish Rabbanan is tax collectors. They know them, and so we don't take from them stoka either, because the money mistama they have is stolen. See, from here comes the Jewish attitude about taxes. But if you take the tax collector, mistama is an honest person in and of himself, so he gives it from his own pocket, or in the marketplace he gives you money, you can take that from him. Okay? Tani. Yisrael Shlava B'Ribis. A Jew borrowed money at interest. Actually, it here means he loaned that money interest. V'asa tshuva. And he did tshuva. Chayav l'achzi has to give back all the money he took. Meis v'nichli they born if he died and left in front of his kids all his ribis. All of our costs of Oymer concerning the bus says Yochin. I think it says a pasuk actually Yochin Russia. Forget about the tzaddik. The Rosh prepares and the tzaddik wears, meaning that the kids get to have it. They don't have to give it back. He has to give it back. If he didn't give it back, the kids get to keep it. However, if they left them a paratalis, which is called in the Bavli a davar mesuyim, something recognizable, because everybody they have to give back. Because it's embarrassing not to the dead father. It's embarrassing to the dead father. The house covered off, they have to give it back. Okay, if he started doing tshuva. If he didn't start doing tshuva as a rush, forget about keeping it off. But starting doing tshuva, didn't finish doing tshuva, so then they should give it the process. Also, tiny Gazlaya, everybody tells different pshat. The Gilin Ephraim says pshat, the cube pshat, he says, we go teach the young ones. Gazlaya like young birds, and Tanya teach, so we teach them to do the right thing, to give it back because of kibburav. Bnei Moshe is a different pshat, he says, people are going to say, oh, look at that Noah, that Goslin, the Bava B'Ribis got from having this parotalis and looks bad, so that's where they give it back. Okay. If there's davar sheish lo achrayas, they have to give it back. Is the davar sheish lo achrayas? What's the davar sheish lo achrayas? It's a machlokas. It should be Rabbi Yochanan according to most of the people who change their souls here. Even though he didn't steal land, there's no gzela by land, right? But if you left land, just like you pay, you say pay off debts from land, so do they pay off gzelas from land, right? That's the Avashishna Machrayz L'Chosim. V'Shlogish Amar no b'Sheniach Lifnei and Gufa Gzeh. It's about where the father left him a stolen item. That's the Avashishna Machrayz in our Mishnah. And then they have to return the stolen item. Rav Amar, Rav says, Yoresh Kimeshubad. A Yoresh, an heir, is like a person under lien. Kishem Shein, where there's no document. Kishem Shein Malva Be'edim Goyim Meshubadim. There's like a Malva with witnesses, but no document. Does not collect from the Chosim Meshubadim. Kach Ein Goyim Yarshim Sorti, you can't collect from Yarshim. You don't collect from heirs. Shmuel says another point. It's not directly in contradiction, but it says at the ikne, if a person says, everything I buy, I'm going to give to you. Anything I'm ever going to buy, it makes a shibud upon himself. The ikne, it doesn't have to say everything for a certain amount of time, whatever. It says things I'm going to buy, I'm going to give to you. So, if he buys something, then sells it to somebody else. So the person to whom he made this pledge cannot collect it. Only from stuff which the person who bought retained by him. Okay? Says more, now we have a kasha. From our Mishnah. Doesn't our Mishnah argue on Rav? Lacy pleading on Rav. Our Mishnah says that the Yorshim have to give back the Yorshim have to give back the Gzela which their father left, right? But Rav said Yorish is Kimeshubad. Shem Shemalva Beid and Gomeshubad and Kacheni Garvim Yorshim. Or Yorish is like a person in the Shibud. There's no necessity to give it back, right? So if that's the case, how can the Mishnah ask to give it back? Right? So it says more, but Allah, he says, B'sheniach lifneim, now everybody changes the gears to here, although I'm not sure you have to do it. B'sheniach lifneim, kufa gzela. And you don't have to give back, the Yorish doesn't have to give back property on a debt. It's here theft. There's a different matter altogether. Rav is talking about a debt. This is talking about gzela. Gzela, you have to give back. Says my Rav, feel the Shmuel, lazy pliga, doesn't argue on Shmuel. Shmuel says, locate him on Shmuel, when you said stuff which I'm going to buy, it doesn't. You don't have to pay from stuff which went to other people. And here too, look at. There's nothing here which is. There's nothing here. There's all in the Chosim Meshubadim, meaning it all belongs now to the heirs. So why do they have to pay up? So Pasalo, so they say B'sheniach lifnei. He'll say B'sheniach lifnei, and here too they change gears of karka. Here it's unique because he left. They switched to kurzos because he left karka. That karka is as if the guy is still alive, and that's why you gave his debts and all theft from real estate. What if you stole a talus and you gave it to somebody else? So and it seems there's no Yerushalmi yet. So first you go to the first guy, and you don't go to the second guy. You also collect from the second guy. You can go to whoever has your talus. Also you take from the second guy. What's the case which proves that? It's a shvacha proof. The Gemara is going to disprove it. But the schalfu kelev beisa uma. If a guy's kalim got messed up, you brought your kalim to the tailor, the cleaner, and they gave you the wrong suit. Okay, you took on the wrong suit. You shtamish by him. You can use it. Go out and look for it. In the meantime, you can use it. If you switched, however, in the base of and base hamishta, right? You went to a party or you went to shul, and there you switched. You can't use whatever raincoat you picked up. You have to go out and look for yours immediately, right? It's a big nafkamina, right? What's the nafkamina based on? It's based on. So Gemara wants to say that when you have gazlonim, you can go after either one, the rishon or the sheni. So when you get it from the base of Uman, so the Uman's the one who stole your coat. All right, but you in the meantime can use the coat of the second guy who has your coat. So you go after either the Rishon or the Sheni. You can either go after the base after the Uman, or after the guy whose coat you're wearing. Right? So that means you don't have to go after the Gazan, you can go after anybody in whom you need to get your coats. So it's a wild and wacky comparison. And what it's not a comparison at all. Our Rabbi Chana, Love Rabbi Chia Chavivi, Rabbi Chia, my uncle, never said such a thing. Except with a unique type of Uman, one who gets things on consignment or pawn shop. Anybody takes him noito b'rshus, meaning that there's permission to wheel and deal in the garments which go into the shop. So there, people know that things like this are going to happen. Dafka there, can you wear the clothing? By under any other circumstances, you can't wear the clothing you pick up in the shop. So therefore, Lamaisa, we have no proof from here that Rabbi Chia holds you can always go after. You can go after the Sheni. Maybe you always have to go after the Rishon, the guy with whom stole from you, and the Sheni is beyond your ken, unless, of course, there's some reason to assume that the second one. Now I'm thinking must be that it's after Yeush. I'm thinking it must be after Yeush. Pnei Moshe says after Yeush back there. It has to be after Yeush, because if it's not after Yeush, of course you go after the second guy. He's holding on to your object. Must be talking about Dafka after Yeush. And what's man holds still, but it's your object. You can go after it. The other man Damar holds no. Once you gave up hope, you can only go after the first guy. And here, this is not a riot because this is talking about a unique case, which is a special type of shot. Right? You have to daven, I see, right? All right, so we'll stop here for this evening. Rav Kolevsky was nifter.